Good morning, everybody. I hope that you all are enjoying this lovely weather outside. And today our practice is just going to be something really short, just a little tutorial on tripod headstand for those of you who have been wanting a little bit of extra information on it. So I'll talk you through a couple of things and then I'll show you, but it'll just be really short, and I'll save this video for you guys to look at later if you'd like to. So before we begin, I want to remind you that it's best if you try to warm up a little bit before attempting tripod. Maybe just do a couple of sun salutations, and that should be a nice way to warm up. And you want to also remember that for tripod headstand, you are completely upside down. So if you have any type of condition or anything like that, like high blood pressure, low blood pressure, you're prone to migraines or headaches, you might be pregnant, maybe you've got glaucoma or something going on with your eyes, you definitely don't want to completely invert, as it can make things a little worse sometimes. So just kind of remembering that this position is accessible to most everybody, but there are ways to modify it so that it's not so intense. And I'll show you those modifications also. So before we start, just a quick reminder that you want to be sure that you are protecting your body and being safe when you practice these kinds of poses, just like you would of anything that you do, especially if you've never done it before. You want to be sure that you're being safe and taking care of yourself. And also reminding yourself that if something feels like it's too much, to back off. Especially I find when I was first practicing headstand that a lot of times I would feel a little bit of fear slash a little bit of panic. And when you feel that, you want to back off, take some deep grounding breaths, and then if you want to try it again, go for it. But you definitely don't want to attempt something when you're not able to control your breath, keeping it calm, steady, and slow, because when you can't control your breath, it's very difficult to control your body. So just kind of keeping those things in mind and reminding yourself that headstand is not a necessary pose, right? It's not something that you have to do. It's just something a little different if you've been wanting to try it. And it is fondly known as the king of asanas, which I think makes people really want to try it. It is an intermediate to advanced posture. It's definitely not a beginner posture. So if you're a beginner, maybe just try the prep poses first and see how those feel. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. A lot of the benefits to tripod headstand, or any headstand really, are increased blood circulation. It's said to help with depression because you are inverted, helps you with a feeling of peace and tranquility after you've come out of the posture, all those things. Activates the 7th chakra if you're into that stuff. So it's a really nice posture, but again, to practice it, if you want to, maybe just watch, whatever feels comfortable for you. All right, so we're going to start with just a couple of kind of prep things that you can test to see if you want to try it out. I'm just doing this on the rug in this room. Ideally, I'd have a mat. I just don't have one with me right now. A nice cushiony mat, but you want to be sure that your mat isn't too thick. You want to be on a flat surface that doesn't have any wiggle to it, if that makes sense. So if you've got one of those super thick exercise mats that kind of squish when you put your weight into them, you don't want that because you'll end up feeling a little unstable, and you want to be as stable as possible because we want to protect our neck. Other than that, you can do this at a wall space. I actually recommend that you do this at a wall space because if you feel like you're losing your balance, you can tap your toes against the wall and then come back down. You won't flip over. I'm not going to do it at a wall space today because the camera positioning would be really awkward. But just so you know, I practiced this at a wall space for a really long time before I was comfortable doing it in the middle of a room. And I want you all to understand, and again, I'm not like a master at headstand or anything, but I've been practicing yoga for 16 years. I started when I was 15, and so it took me about 6 years to even want to try doing a headstand. So just to kind of put that into perspective for you, and just until recently, the last couple of years, have I felt comfortable to be able to do it in the middle of a room. Having said that, I still fall out often or I need to come out of it, and that's okay. Some days it feels really good. Some days I feel super heavy and I don't feel like I can get that light feeling in my body, and that's okay too. Okay, enough talking. I'll show you a couple of things. All right, so the first thing you want to understand for tripod is the placement of your head. It's very important that you place the crown of your head down onto the floor, not the forehead or the back of the head. This will keep your neck stable. So a way to kind of test this out is if you take a book. This is so silly, but it helps, I promise. If you place a book on the crown of your head, you will be able to balance it. It's kind of the flatter part of your head. If I put the book on the front of my head, it'll fall forward. If I put it too far back, it'll fall back, right? So the crown of your head, you want to sit up nice and tall. The crown of your head is where you would balance a book. So that will be a nice place for you to understand exactly where you should position yourself, right? So if you want to take a book and kind of feel that out, and you can feel where it is. Now, if you've never done tripod, you've never put weight in your body upside down, it will feel really weird to you. So I'd recommend just kind of try the prep poses, get the feeling before trying to just throw yourself up into it, right? You want to remember that it's all about safety, stabilization, control, right? We're not kicking, we're not jumping, we're not hopping, because then you kind of bypass the process, and the process is part of the beauty of the posture, and that's where we kind of dip into the spiritual practice a little bit more, and understand that our reactions are very important. This all gets into a little bit more in depth, but understanding that when you're trying any posture, whatever it may be, that your reactions often mirror the conditioned reactions that you have in your everyday life, and that's where part of our yoga practice becomes so important, where we begin to realize, oh, maybe I do tend to be a little impatient, maybe I do tend to be frustrated, maybe I do tend to put too much expectation or too much attachment on the end result, and then you can kind of work on those things in your daily life. All right, so we tried our book thing. The second thing I want you to think about is just thinking about putting that weight into the top of your head a little bit. And so there's a nice position that we call rabbit posture, where you start in a child's pose and you roll forward, and I'll show you that really quickly so that you can just kind of see what it's like. Okay, so I'm going to start out in a child's pose with my knees together, right? And so I'm just going to let my forehead tap down onto the mat or floor. I'm going to let my hands relax back. So you may just want to start out here. And then from here, we're going to roll to the top of the head and roll back. And it will feel kind of weird. I find it to be really relaxing. Some people find it makes them kind of dizzy or gives them a little bit of a headache. If that is the case for you, just kind of acknowledge that and maybe back off a little bit. So we start here, and then I'm just going to breathe in and roll forward to the crown of my head and roll back. And I'm going to roll forward and roll back. It's like a little massage. Inhale, roll forward. Exhale, roll back. You can even grab the heels here and roll. I don't really like that variation, but you know. So that's a nice way to kind of test out the feeling, right? It's kind of like you're dipping your toe into the water, seeing how it feels. The next thing that you want to think about for tripod headstand is that you are, it's nice to think about what the position is. So imagine it's like you're standing up, right? It is this position. So we're here with our elbows bent and wrists in line with the elbows, these little T-Rex arms, hands flexed. It is this position upside down, which I know sounds so silly, but think about just being here, but upside down, that's all. So you want to be sure that you're not here, right? And that your elbows kind of stay glued in, because that will help protect everything. So it's like a little T-Rex saying stop, upside down, that's all. So the next thing that you may want to try, just to kind of engage the correct muscles, because you use your shoulder and your shoulder girdle quite a bit. In this position, you use the abdominals a whole lot. You use the muscles in the backs of your body, the muscles that wrap around the ribs, those serratus muscles. Those are really important. And so the difficult part for me, at least in practicing, is that it's a lot of ab, a lot of core work. And sometimes I'm not feeling it. Some days I am, and sometimes I'm not. So it's important to just kind of train those muscles, right? So the next thing I want you to do is just practice holding the position without even putting your head down, so you can feel how much of the arms and shoulders you're actually using. It's a lot, right? We want to distribute the weight into the hands and shoulders, so there's actually not a whole lot of weight in the top of your head. you don't want to think about compressing your neck, right? So you want to think about the shoulders away from the ears, right? I've got lots of space and my neck is nice and stable, right? All right, if you've got any neck injuries, anything like that, a slip disc, anything like that, I would advise to just not do this. Especially our necks are very delicate. And so you don't want to put any unnecessary strain in a place that maybe already feels unstable. Especially in the cervical spine, it can be very sensitive. So just be very careful, right? If you've got a neck injury, or even you just have a crick in your neck, or you're feeling kind of tight, maybe think about doing some neck stretches and stuff instead, right? So the next thing will come to hands and knees. You want wrists under shoulders, knees under hips, just like we would for cat-cow. But instead, I'm gonna bend my arms almost like a little push-up, like a little chaturanga push-up. So I'm gonna come forward, and with my exhale, I'm gonna bend my elbows, think about tapping my head down, and then I'm gonna come back up. Then I'm gonna bend, come back up. So you feel it in your shoulders. And when you come down, you don't want shoulders by the ears, you wanna roll them away from the ears. So a nice way to kind of test your strength is to bend, hover your head above the floor for a couple of seconds and see, and my arms start to shake when I do this because it is kind of intense. So we're gonna breathe in, I'm gonna bend, little 90-degree angles, I'm gonna hover my head, breathe, and then come back up. All right, so now that we've done that, you can start to come into the prep of your headstand. There are various types of headstand, Shirsasana, but you want to remember that this variation is called tripod, 3 points of contact, both hands and the top of your head. This headstand is just one of the many variations that there are. The other kind, you have your hands behind your head, you make a little frame with your elbows, like a little triangle. That's another kind of headstand. I find that one to be more difficult to get into because of the work in the abdominals, but a little bit easier in terms of balance. So they both have things that are accessible and kind of a little bit more challenging. All right, so to come into our tripod headstand, you're first just going to think about your hands and your head, hands and head down first. Really simple, just kind of feel it out, right? So you don't need to put a whole lot of weight, just kind of feel it out. Take it in tiny steps. So maybe today this is your step, or maybe this week this is your step. And then you move on, gradually progressing, reminding yourself that coming into your headstand, yeah, it's fun, it has great benefits, it's wonderful, but it doesn't mean that you are less than if you're not able to come into it, right? There's no attachment to these postures, it's just a way of moving our bodies. So we'll place our hands down underneath the shoulders, right? And I want to think about my little T-Rex arm. So I'm just going to put the crown of my head down, and you'll see, I'll move my hand so you can see, you'll see I'm not on my forehead, so my neck isn't feeling weird. I'm not in the back of my head, I'm right in the center. So you want to see that my shoulders are away from my ears, not scrunched, right? That wasn't a word, but I meant to say scrunched. And so I'm just going to put my hands down, elbows in. So it's like I'm hugging my elbows in, right? My arms are super active. I can see all 10 fingers. So my hands aren't up here or over here or out here. They're hugged in, little T-Rex arms, right? And so I may just want to hang out here today. That actually puts a good bit of weight in your head and your hands. You may want to try that. The next step, I can tuck my toes under, pop my butt up, and put a little bit more weight. And if you want to, you can start to walk your feet towards your face to put a little bit more weight into the hands there. Again, take it in tiny steps. If you come up and you're like, oof, I'm dizzy, take a break. It's okay. It's very normal to feel like that, oof, like the cartoon with the little birds around your head. Very normal to kind of feel that kind of sensation. So give yourself time. It doesn't have to happen today, right? All right, so I'm gonna put my head down. Walk my hands back so I can see all 10 fingers. Elbows squeeze in. Arms are active, shoulders away from the ears. I'm protecting my neck, not a whole lot of weight here. I'm going to tuck my little toes under, and I'm going to lift my hips, right? So my legs extend. I can stay here. I can walk my feet closer to my face. Notice that that's going to take my hips closer to over my shoulders. I'm still hugging those arms in. Then from here, I can take my knees onto my elbows. Right, this is a great way to just start. I'm putting all this weight into my hands, into my head, and I can just hang out here. If I want to take it a step further, I think about squeezing my knees together, pulling my hips back, back, back. I may want to hang out there, pressing my knees together, arms are active, elbows in, shoulders away from the ears. I'm breathing, I can start to extend.
Breathing, thinking about visualizing a line from my head all the way to my toes. And then to come out, I just reverse the tape. So I'm going to bend, put my knees on my elbows, then I can put my little feet down. Take a child's pose, because that's a lot. Breathing. And then I can come up. And you do get a little, I call it like the woo-woo feeling. I get like the woo-woo feeling. It's kind of fun, but also you want to be careful that you're not feeling nauseated, that you're not feeling any type of headache. You do feel a little bit of like when you stand up too fast kind of feeling sometimes. So that may be what you want to work on today. Maybe just extending the legs and bending back down, extending and bending. Maybe you walk your feet towards your face. Maybe you get those knees on the elbows, right? The other way to get in, if you really want to work into the abdomen, into the core, and honestly right now I don't even know if I can do it, but I'll try it just for you guys. And the other way is to keep the legs extended and you tiptoe your feet closer to your face until you feel this natural lift. It took me a long time to feel the lift, right? I would get frustrated seeing these people who would just float up like an angel into headstand, and I would think, what? I'm made of lead or something. That's not the case. I just hadn't trained those muscles yet, right? And so that's okay. Sometimes those muscles feel great. Sometimes, again, there are some days where I'm like, oof, there's no way I'm gonna get into that, right? So I wanna be sure, again, I'm not compressing my shoulder, right? I don't wanna look like, you know, the, what's his name? The guy on Addams Family? Uncle Fester. I don't want to look like that. I want to keep my shoulders down the back, okay? So again, the second way, a little bit more challenging. I'll show it to you. Who knows if I'll be able to do it, but you guys don't judge me. So I'm going to put my head down, walk my hands back, elbows in, placing my hands down firmly so I've got weight into my hands. I'm thinking about that little push-up, really pressing into my hands. Tuck my toes under. Walk my feet in. I keep walking until beep, I feel the lift. Whew, feels heavy today. That's okay. I'm breathing. I come up super slowly. And you want to think about when you come up, you've got to pull your hips forward to counteract the weight of your legs. If my hips keep pulling back toward the wall behind me, I'll fall over. And then to come out, I think about pushing my buns back, bringing my feet forward. Slow, till I can come down. And then I take my child's pose again. And normally I would take that child's pose for about 10, 15 breaths, right? But just for the sake of time, I'll come out of it faster. Now remember, you don't want to come out and be like, oof, my neck feels sore. You don't want to feel that, right? If that is the case, practice just working on those movements instead of hopping up into it. And also being careful that, I know it's tempting to think, well, I know I can do it. Let me just jump into it. I strongly advise no jumping, no hopping, nothing like that, right? Think control, because control will keep stability through the neck. It's very important to keep that stabilization through the neck and the shoulders. Any kind of little hop can kind of jolt you, and you are at risk for injury in that case, especially through the cervical spine. You've got to be so careful. So anyway, again, if you feel a little bit of that fear, I don't know if I can do this, take a break. Try that rabbit pose where you just roll onto your forehead, onto the crown of your head, and roll back, right? Maybe just take a couple steps around your house with your book on your head and just kind of feel that out first. Maybe try those little push-up looking things, work into the shoulders, work that, and then gradually move to it. But anyway, I wanted to do something a little different for you guys, just to kind of give you a taste of the variety that we have in our yoga practice. If you have any requests or questions, send me a message and we'll chat about it. And if you want to see a position in a video and I am able to teach it to you, I will definitely do that. There are many positions that I am not, I haven't achieved quite yet, and that's okay, right? All right, you guys, namaste. Have a great day. It's gorgeous outside, kind of chilly, but it's gorgeous. So maybe try your headstands in the grass. And I'll see you next time. Remember, you can always use the wall. The wall is a great little prop to help you feel secure, right? So once you come up, if you feel like, oh gosh, I'm gonna fall right over, you won't. The wall will be right there. You'll just tap it, okay? Thank you guys. Thank you for watching and being supportive. Have a great day.
Bye.